And we're back for the next game here at the MRDA Championships, Gateway to the Best in Baldwin, Missouri. We're getting ready to start off with our next bout of the afternoon with the Magic City Misfits and the New York Shock Exchange. I am ecstatic, joined by Bob Noxious.
Yeah, and I tell you, X, as we talked about before, it's deja vu all over again, as X and I called this exact same bout last year.
Indeed.
As I have very openly discussed, that bout turns out to be one of my favorite 2 or 3 of all time. So that is the kind of action that we're expecting to see here. Obviously, as you know, X, we're looking at 2 styles of play that couldn't be any further apart.
Absolutely not. The jam skating styles of the Magic City Misfits matched up against the technical prowess and the rule book knowledge of the New York Shock Exchange and the very disciplined play that they've put in place over the years.
Yeah, the Misfits putting on a real strong showing here. They upset Puget Sound, actually opened that up toward the end of the game and beat them by a fair margin, turn around and come in today to play Your Mom Roller Derby, maybe the most anticipated matchup of the entire tournament, because that was the first time we were going to see these those two teams with those 2 similar styles play each other. Unfortunately, the Misfits keep it close early on, and then Your Mom Roller Derby breaks it open towards the end. So Your Mom advancing.
Well, and in that bout, what you saw was the Magic City Misfits hanging on through most of the game, and then there down the stretch, they had a lot of jammers in the box, and that really allowed Your Mom to take over. So, and that's happened to Magic City a few times in the past. I mean, it happened in their game against New York last year, which is the only game that they've lost until
that's true.
Today.
Of course. Then I want to say they lost by about 8 points to New York the last time. You can see both teams are off from a scrum start here, and it looks like we are going to see Ladies' Night.
And he's going to be declared.
He's up
not going to be declared your lead jammer. They're in the white.
Well, Jeremy Strecker is the other jammer for Magic City. So Jeremy trying to feed him back to the defense, apparently.
And Ladies' Night having to expend all of his energy trying to get past him.
Oh, nice. He ends up switching it off with Chuck Best so that he can put some space between him. And now, of course, New York is going to run. And Orlando wisely stops, and he's going to spin around the front. He's going to call that off. That's 4 points.
That was really, really nice work right there by Jeremy Strecker. Being able to pull, that was probably the best execution of jammer on jammer play that I've seen in a really long time.
Yeah, and not only did he basically what they call eating the baby, feeding the other jammer back to the defense, by getting Chuck Best out there, but that execution, for him to come around the opposition like that and just stop and stare him in the face.
And we're back off on another jam.
And it looks like we got Johnny Weichel out there right now for the Misfits.
That's right, Jonathan R., of course, the former MVP in for the Shock Exchange, and he's going to edge his way around the front of the pack and pick up lead jammer status. Pack stopped over in turn 3, and Johnny Weichel finally makes it out of the pack, but he's going to be sent to the box on a major trap cut. So a power jam situation now in effect for Jonathan R.
Yeah, and you've got Binkley, who is already in the box. He's coming out now. And I'll tell you, Frazier, number 00, probably very underappreciated. Actually a very fast and nimble guy for his size.
Indeed, him and Derek Calkins holding back Jonathan R. for about a quarter of the track. They have to let him go when they're 20 feet out. And Jonathan R. back on another scoring pass, and once again facing off against Heath Frazier.
And that's where Frazier becomes so important, because if he can get his skate turned sideways, he can literally stop their motion. They're going to force Jonathan out of bounds. And I tell you, the penalty kill is something that Magic City has just been brilliant with all weekend long.
They're doing a great job of it here. Jonathan R. has been stuck in this position for about 15-20 seconds.
At least. Johnny Weichel's standing, so he's down to his last 10 seconds. They've already forced Jonathan R. out again. Weichel's going to come out. And my goodness, they could actually put points up on the board before New York does.
And Jonathan's back there with Johnny Weichel now. They keep sending him back, knocking him out at the pivot line.
Smith gets him.
And he has to recycle back to the jammer line.
Weichel quickly back in.
Wolverine being sent out, picking up a major penalty. Blocking advantage now for.
Oh! And down goes Frazier.
He trips right over Jonathan R. No low block called. That's going to be a 5-point grand slam for Jonathan R.
And that's a strange, yeah, it's not.
I would have expected a low block.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it just doesn't matter. If somebody's laying on the ground and you fall over the top of them, I mean, they're almost always accidental, but for safety reasons, they've got to enforce it. And unfortunately for, he looks like he's okay.
Indeed.
Really, really good guy. Really, but you hate, that's a lot of man hitting the floor. That's gotta hurt.
3-on-2 blocking advantage now for the Magic City Misfits. As Ladies Night once again off the line along with Hunter Collins for the Magic City Misfits.
Yeah, Hunter Collins getting limited rotations throughout the weekend. You might say, look at that. Wow, I tell you, who doesn't have speed on this team?
I don't know if there's anybody, but he's out in front quickly for lead jammer status. Ladies Night finally out of the pack now, but Hunter Collins working on a scoring pass forced to the inside by Abe Drinkin. And fighting again with Abe Drinkin in turn one, decides to call the jam off. New York not going to pick up any points there, but 3 picked up by Hunter Collins for the Misfits.
Nice job for Hunter Collins. One of the better showings that he's had out there, jamming at least this weekend. And we're going to see Heath Frazier back into the pack as well with Johnny Weichel, Christopher Smith. And Jammer keeps eluding us. He keeps moving.
Ronnie Mako taking off from the line for the New York Shock Exchange behind Johnny Weichel and Heath Frazier.
And that's Christopher Smith that's kind of holding it all together up front. Frazier with a nice job forcing him out of.
And Mike Coward, the jammer for the Magic City Misfits, being forced outside by both Filthy McNasty and Jeffery. He still is unable to make it out of the pack. Finally gets by Jeffery up at the front, and he is out. Ronnie Mako on a scoring pass now.
Heath Frazier actually ends up with a major penalty on that. Running Ronnie Mako out of bounds. Not sure what happened.
And after he took his seat in the box emptied for the Shock Exchange. Ace of Skates and Wolverine coming out of the box, rejoining action on the track, giving them a blocking advantage as that jam is called off, and we go into the next one. Our score currently 10-7 in favor of the New York Shock Exchange with 24 minutes remaining in this first period of play.
And of course, it's the New York Shock Exchange in the traditional black and white. This is the first time we've seen the black uniforms out for the Misfits.
Indeed, I was wondering if they even had different colored jerseys.
Oh, yeah.
I knew they had them, but I've never seen them before.
I couldn't remember what color they were. And I tell you, Chuck Best just stands him up. Nobody blocks that way better than the Misfits do.
And as he was holding Jonathan R., TJ Binkley came across and gave Jonathan R. a shot as well, opened up some room for Jeremy Strecker to take off and get lead jammer status, now working on a scoring pass.
Oh, Strecker, man, it looked like he just darted through daylight. He hits the ground, but he gets up so darn fast.
And he still picks up all the points. 5 points right there for Jeremy Strecker.
And right now the defense of Magic City, this is what they wanted earlier in the day against your mom.
Chuck Best and Tim Kugler holding Jonathan R. back at the front of the pack. He has to recycle, and once again, those two skaters hit him and knock him into the infield.
I tell you, Chuck Best plays like a man 3 times his size.
He certainly has the attitude of a man that's 3 times his size. That's absolutely true.
He does. He absolutely does.
And taking that mentality into the game, it sure shows in his play as well.
You know, it's not too often that you probably wouldn't look at this Misfit team and say, you know, who is their VIP or who is their MVP this weekend, and not say either Strecker or probably Smith, but it's been Chuck Best all weekend.
Yeah, 1X has been devastating in this tournament to other teams.
He had a jamming performance against Puget Sound that was just unbelievable. probably one of the larger single game jammer totals of the weekend. Does a really, really nice job. Pulls off probably the move of the weekend, blocking against Your Mom roller derby. And he's like, yeah, but my ankle hurts. Dude, I wish I could do half
if I
that
tried
if
that,
my ankle
would
hurt.
be broken.
Yeah, exactly.
And we're in an official timeout. The score reads Magic City Misfits 17, New York Shock Exchange 10. Magic City having taken a lead back from the Shock Exchange, 22-31 remaining. We've played 6 jams.
Yeah, and right now you're going to see the track crew out there. They're cleaning up some moisture. That's just simply how many bodies have hit the ground today and yesterday.
What's that?
It's I don't know. A couple of these corners have been a little slick. We've seen guys have a hard time as they've come around. Turn 2 has been the big one. We've seen Michael lose his footing out there a couple of times.
A lot of bodies landing right on that outside line a lot of the time.
Yeah.
A lot of people being pushed to that outside. A lot of traffic happens right there.
Either that or the track is crying.
It has good reason to do that as well. It's been beat up as well as anybody else has today.
If I was falling on as often as this track was.
Still in a stoppage of play. A couple of the referees having a conference over at the far side of the track by the audience.
And that is Meow Makes Your Face Up from Jacksonville, their coach. Out there checking to see what's going on. It's kind of an interesting exchange because you'll see Meow Mix out here coaching for Magic City, and then you will see, or at least at Bruja, we saw Christopher Smith and Jeremy Strecker out there coaching Jacksonville in return. So kind of a brother-sister league situation out there.
And while we're still in a play stoppage, I want to remind you that at Rydell, skate design, performance, comfort, and fit are challenged on a daily basis. So stop by their booth or visit them online at rydellskates.com to learn why their boots are the choice of top skaters everywhere. That's Rydell. Unmatched quality, unmatched performance.
Yeah, we also like to say thanks to Ringster. Ringster, and that's with a K, RINXTER, is proud to support Shock the UK. And the Roller Derby Tour of England coming up November of this year, which is weeks away. The New York Shock Exchange is going to play Manchester's New Wheeled Order and London's Southern Discomfort in an effort to expand MRDA across the Atlantic. Now, the interesting thing is, I contribute to a show out of Lincolnshire called Roller Derby Radio, and we talk about these two teams and their scores an awful lot. So, you know, if anybody is out there listening from the UK, or particularly from these teams, I'm going to get Shock Exchange interviews today. We will have them aired on Wednesday, and I've even got a little surprise if somebody can take home with them. So Shock Exchange has donated a couple of things.
Fantastic.
So for any of our regular listeners, I have the opportunity to get the inside scoop before the Shock Exchange even gets there. I understand that they're not only going to skate against these teams, but they're also going to hold a boot camp.
Well, won't it be interesting in a couple of years here whenever we've got some of those teams as members of the MRDA potentially, or some sort of organization, seeing them playing over here in a championship?
Yeah, even if it's exhibition play.
Sure.
Even though our type says in an effort to expand the MRDA across the Atlantic, I don't know if that is theologically speaking, philosophically speaking, or in a literal sense. But
well, we don't know if there are actually any plans as far as that goes, but
MRDA certainly. Well, you know, I give a lot of credit to the MRDA for one thing, and that is they have progressed at the perfect pace. And we're seeing that here today. We are seeing 5 teams that come into an 18 tournament with the ability to fight for the cup. And we know that every team that is here this weekend is going to come back, if they came back next year, if they can even get in again, because there's you know.
There's going to be stiffer competition next year.
Well, the thing is, you could have, if they keep it to 8 or 10 teams, I honestly believe you may have 8 or 10 teams that are all in a fight for that cup. That's how tight it's going to be.
At least 6 or 7. I mean, we've definitely got 4 or 5 right now, and I think it's going to be more next year.
Well, we know that
sure.
we know that Portland's going to come back and probably be right in the game. I can't believe that Mass Maelstrom isn't going to be the same thing.
Well, and Mass Maelstrom was the team that played so many games on their road to come here, and if they do that again and up the competition a little bit and play a lot of these tougher teams that they've shown they can play against, that's really going to further their development by next year.
Yeah, certainly no givens here at all, and we've seen that already. As New York Chalk Exchange, your champs from last year, already out of the race for the championship. Your Mom Roller Derby, who could potentially end up winning the entire thing, would be a team that didn't even participate in this last year.
Right.
And of course, Gatekeepers looking very good, very sharp this weekend, so it'll be interesting. Again, that's going to be a very different matchup, much like this is. Chalk Exchange Gatekeepers have such a great history and such a great rivalry, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that they play a very similar style of derby.
Indeed. And I think with St. Louis and your mom later this evening, we're going to see kind of a game of adaptation as well. I mean, a lot of these teams have been able to go through this weekend without having to make major changes to what they're doing out there. They pretty much play the same game most of the way through.
I would say the only major adaptation that we've seen is the Misfits going to a very physical game to beat Puget Sound.
Yes.
And outplaying them at that game, forcing them into an awful lot of penalties, and eliminating them yesterday. In fact, that game may have dropped more people than any single game all weekend.
Yeah, there were a lot of bodies hitting the floor.
You just really, it almost got to the point where it was, you were afraid somebody was just going to really get hurt. And fortunately, we've wound up with some nicks and bruises and one knee injury, I think, for the Maelstrom.
So an extremely lengthy official timeout. Hopefully we'll be getting back to the action before too long. Got a couple referees getting closer to their spots, their normal spots on the track.
Yeah, and apparently the Misfits asking for them to take a look at the track. And
seems like we could have done that 10 minutes ago.
Well, I think after these first couple of jams, there must have been a couple of guys complaining about it being slick out there. And obviously this isn't something that we're used to having a break for, but it's not the kind of situation where we're used to that many sweaty bodies slamming the floor either.
Well, they're finally getting ready to start the action back again. The teams have braced themselves for the jam start.
Brace yourself.
Resetting, it's 22 minutes, 31 seconds remaining, 17-10 in favor of the Misfits from Jacksonville.
And Heron out front working with
Ladies Knight stuck in the scrum there in the middle, and he's sent off to the penalty box. So Ladies Knight continuing to struggle just as he did in the earlier bout.
And right now they're jamming is number 42, Johnny Weichel. Christopher Smith with a hit on
Johnny Weichel forced to the inside by Wolverine and Starsky for the Chalk Exchange.
What's Starsky without Hutch? Or a Huggy Bear at least.
Yeah, you gotta have Huggy Bear.
You gotta have a Huggy Bear. Oh, Weichel! And ends up going head to head with Wolverine.
And Wilverine seeming to think that he took a shot to the head. He's recycling back into the pack right at the same time Johnny Weichel does.
Yeah, he comes back in and hits Johnny Weichel, but that doesn't really do a whole lot of good. No. Johnny Weichel's going to go ahead and call it off, and Wolverine can go ahead and hold his head like that. But when you turn around and face somebody, you either better be leaning up against them or you're going to take a shot, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Wolverine's
a tough player, though. I mean, he took that.
I don't mean to be blunt about it, but it's not something that you want to do unless you're ready for the consequences. Or if you do it right, you do it like the Misfits, and you spin around the shoulder so that you're shoulder to shoulder from the get-go. We've seen it in women's. We've seen it in women's derby all the time. The minute you open up that hole, you're lucky if somebody drops a shoulder in your sternum. That doesn't feel so good, and you drop pretty quickly. I guess I'm just suggesting that if you don't skate the style, this is the wrong team to test it against.
Exactly. And we've got another official timeout on the floor at 20 minutes and 54 seconds remaining, so we still have not played quite 10 minutes in this one. 19-10 now the score. Johnny Weichel picking up 2 points in that last jam.
This is the unfortunate scenario that the Misfits have been in almost all weekend, is that the bout's been so fast and complex that there's been a lot of official timeouts. Not to say that the officiating hasn't been good, because it has been. A lot of the timeouts actually coming from trying to keep penalties straight and all those types of things, because it's all happening so fast that even the tally on the penalties, the penalty timing, everything has been very difficult to coordinate.
And ladies' night still in the box for the New York Stock Exchange, so this one's going to begin on a power jam for the Magic City Misfits. And the scoreboard is listing Hunter Collins as the jammer, although it looks to me like he and Chris Smith each have pivot covers on, although Chris Smith now heading over towards his bench.
Yeah, Christopher Smith he was put in a situation in the first game yesterday where he did a lot of jamming on it. Generally speaking, not somebody. He is a pretty good jammer, but that's not generally his role. Traditionally, one of the smarter, faster, more scary blockers that you're going to come up against. One of those outside roamers, as I like to call him, that he's the guy that knocks you down in the back of the pack, and by the time you get back up and race to the front, he's there too.
Kind of everywhere.
Yeah, he is. That's really the development that we have seen, particularly in him, from the very first spring roll up through. We saw that happen between spring roll and the championships last year. He was on a tear last year. Personally, I know that he was not named most valuable blocker, but personally, I think that he certainly had to have been in the conversation. And we have a lot of people kneeling down, and I don't think anybody's hurt.
I think they're just sort of taking a knee, waiting out this timeout.
Or unless we've got electronic issues at this point.
I'd say that's a possibility, given that the officials on the track are not as animated as I would expect them to be if they were the ones trying to figure out the issue.
And Sugar Daddy brings them all to attention, so it looks like we're finally going to get started here.
And once again, just in case you're just joining us, 20:54 remaining in this first period of play between the Magic City Misfits and the New York Stock Exchange. Currently a 9-point edge held by the Misfits, 19-10 over the New Yorkers.
Yes, they started.
That was a whistle that you may have heard. And it is, looks like Jeremy Strecker. He's not going to be your lead jammer. There's a trap cut there, so still a power jam situation. So he's around to score some points, waiting for Ladies Night to come out of the box and challenge him. And a wall of Filthy McNasty and Abe Drinkin, joined by Banana on skates, holding back Jeremy Strecker. Now Abe Drinkin solo, and he's got to let him go, and that's going to be 5 points on the Grand Slam.
I was just going to say, Ladies Night must be back in, because I see a lot of people spun around the other direction. And that's how the Misfits play. They'll put 2 to 3 people on you, and then they will fence you into the inside or outside to contain you. And there goes Jeremy Strecker with a grand slam.
10 straight points by Jeremy Strecker, increasing the lead, 29-10 currently. Coming up on a wall of shockers, Filthy McNasty takes a shot from behind there. Banana on skates, Abe Drinkin and Jeffery as well, holding him back. He thinks he got 2 points on that last one. The referee's going to give him 1. That's Pachinko.
You know, you need to negotiate a little bit.
You got to haggle sometimes with the points.
That's right.
So an extra point picked up there in addition to what I just mentioned. 30-10 is now your score. We've dropped under 20 minutes to play finally, 19-20 remaining. And empty penalty box now, both teams at full strength as we join this jam, number 8.
And we got up front, it's Frazier, Wyko, Hawkins, and Smith for Magic City.
We got Wilverine.
And jamming is going to be number 44. That's going to be Mike Coward.
And Ronnie Mako still struggling in the pack behind Heath Frazier. Nowhere to go, now pushed out to the outside by Chris Smith.
And Coward wrapped up.
And Ronnie Mako finally out of the pack, and Mike Coward out as well, picks up 4 points on that one since Ronnie Mako made it out. He's going to call that one off. So 4-0 on that jam, 34-10 with under 18.5 remaining. Misfits lead. Penalty box still empty for these two teams.
Yeah, you won't hear us say that very often, I have a feeling.
Up in front looks like Tim Kugler, TJ Binkley, Chuck Best.